In 1932, a French aerial survey team charting uncharted regions of the Central Sahara stumbled upon an impossible sight: a kilometer-wide path of luminous green glass, perfectly straight, stretching as far as their instruments could measure for hundreds of miles. It simply could not exist. This profound anomaly, discovered initially by the French Géologie Africaine mission, engaged in cartographic delineation of the then remote desert expanses, presented a challenge not merely to contemporary geological understanding, but to the foundational principles of human history. The team, equipped with early, albeit advanced for their time, aerial reconnaissance technology and meticulous surveying instruments, meticulously documented what appeared to be an artificial structure of colossal scale. Their initial reports, repatriated to Paris, spoke of a glassy material, iridescent green under the merciless Saharan sun, perfectly bisecting the undulating dunes and rocky plateaus. Its uniformity, a consistent width of precisely 1 kilometer and an unnervingly straight trajectory, suggested an intelligent, deliberate design rather than any known natural phenomenon. The sheer audacity of such a structure, spanning an incredible distance that was later conservatively estimated to exceed 2,000 miles, immediately baffled the geologists and engineers who first reviewed the photographic evidence and preliminary samples. The concept of a continuous kilometer-wide strip of glass, fused and laid with such astonishing precision across vast stretches of one of the planet's most inhospitable terrains, defied all known human capabilities of the era, and indeed, much of what we still understand today. This was not a mere geological formation, nor could it be attributed to any known meteoritic impact, which, while capable of creating impactites or desert glass, does so in localized, irregular patterns entirely dissimilar to the precise, engineered appearance of this discovery. The immediate bewilderment among the discoverers was palpable, as relayed in their dispatches. Their scientific training provided no framework for comprehending such an artifact. It was a stark, undeniable physical presence that contradicted every archaeological and technological timeline known. The preliminary official response, shrouded in a combination of academic skepticism and thinly veiled fascination, struggled to reconcile the physical evidence with conventional understanding. There were initial hypotheses, swiftly discarded, ranging from misinterpreted geological anomalies to optical illusions, none of which could withstand the overwhelming empirical data. The desert, in its vast, silent indifference, had yielded a secret that rendered human history incomplete, utterly redefined by a structure of unimaginable scale and unknown origin. Consider, then, the sheer geological impossibility of a kilometer-wide, 2,000-mile-long expanse of fused glass. While formations like Libyan desert glass indeed exist, born from the titanic energies of meteorite impacts, their nature is fundamentally different. Such phenomena yield irregularly distributed fragments, scattered across the landscape in a chaotic tapestry, their composition varying with localized heat and material conditions. They are, without exception, an artifact of immense, undirected celestial violence, not of design. The Saharan glass road, however, presented itself as a monolithic, meticulously engineered structure. Its defining characteristic was not merely its existence, but its perfectly uniform width, its unvarying depth, and its utterly straight trajectory across hundreds, then thousands of miles. This precision, this unwavering linearity, immediately ruled out any natural origin. No known geological process, no seismic upheaval, no volcanic extrusion, nor indeed any meteoritic event could possibly account for such a geometrically perfect, continuous formation. Furthermore, the very properties of this glass defied natural explanation. Described as fused and possessing a distinct greenish hue, these details point unequivocally to an industrial-level process, implying controlled heating, purification, and solidification far beyond any natural occurrence. Libyan desert glass, by contrast, typically ranges from translucent yellowish-green to opaque, displaying swirls and inclusions reflecting its chaotic formation from vaporized sand and rock. The glass road's uniformity of color and texture suggested a consistent source material, subjected to precise, prolonged temperatures capable of completely melting and then solidifying vast quantities of silica-rich sand into a homogeneous, monolithic material. This was not the haphazard vitrification of superheated desert topsoil. It was the deliberate creation of an immense, industrially processed material. The term fused glass itself carries immense weight, signifying a process wherein the raw components are heated to such an extreme that they meld completely, forming a continuous, non-crystalline solid. This is a level of material processing that even our contemporary societies struggle to achieve on such a scale, for such an astonishing length. The quantities of energy required to melt a strip of sand 1 kilometer wide and 2,000 miles long to produce such a uniform, fused structure are simply staggering, bordering on the incomprehensible, particularly if one adheres to conventional timelines of technological development. The deliberate green coloring further hints at specific chemical additives or mineral compositions chosen for particular properties, again pointing away from organic geological processes and towards deliberate, sophisticated manufacture. This was not merely glass, it was engineered glass, a testament to an advanced material science that stands in stark contradiction to every known historical or prehistoric human capability. The desert, in its timeless silence, offered no answers, only a persistent, profound question etched into its very fabric. Yet, perhaps the most unsettling question, the one that truly redefines our understanding of ancient history, perseveres. Who, precisely, could have conceived and executed such a monumental endeavor? The geographical parameters alone deepen the enigma considerably. This colossal glass thoroughfare lies buried deep within the most unforgiving stretches of the Sahara Desert, an expanse notorious for its profound isolation. It is situated thousands of miles from any known historical trade routes, far removed from the centers of any established ancient civilizations, and conspicuously distant from even the most rudimentary nomadic settlements of antiquity. To suggest that any known culture, particularly one operating within the accepted chronological frameworks, possessed the logistical capacity, the sheer scale of workforce, or even the fundamental knowledge required to undertake such a project in this desolate wilderness stretches the bounds of credulity to their absolute breaking point. Consider, if you will, the technological prerequisites. The initial excavation of a trench 1 kilometer wide and 2,000 miles long across shifting sand dunes and treacherous rocky terrain would demand an engineering feat comparable to, if not exceeding, many of our modern terrestrial infrastructure projects. Then there is the matter of melting glass on such an unprecedented scale, requiring not only immense, sustained energy sources entirely foreign to any known ancient technology, but also a profound understanding of metallurgy, chemistry, and thermodynamics. The precision of its alignment, maintaining a consistent width and integrity across immense distances, suggests advanced surveying techniques, possibly even satellite-level mapping capabilities that are simply not attributed to any pre-industrial civilization. We are left, therefore, with a profound challenge to our collective understanding of human history and technological evolution. No archaeological record, no ancient text, no established cultural narrative within what we presently define as human history hints at the existence of a civilization capable of achieving such a monumental feat. This structure, inexplicable in its very existence, forces us to confront uncomfortable possibilities. Either our understanding of ancient human capabilities is fundamentally flawed and incomplete, or we must consider the unsettling prospect of builders who existed entirely outside our conventional historical timelines and cultural narratives. The Sahara, with its vast, unblinking silence, offers no easy answers, only the persistent, haunting question of an unseen hand that shaped its very sands into a masterpiece of inexplicable engineering. Yet, despite its unprecedented scale and undeniable material evidence, how could such a titanic achievement, a kilometer-wide road stretching 2,000 miles across a continent, largely vanish from public consciousness and the official historical narratives we so readily accept? This is not merely a question of oversight. It speaks to a more profound, systemic suppression, whether deliberate or born of intellectual inertia. Consider the sheer impossibility of its invisibility. A structure of this magnitude does not simply erode into oblivion in the arid embrace of the Sahara. The desert preserves, it does not obliterate. Its very composition, a glass-like material, suggests an inherent resilience against the elements, a durability that should have etched it indelibly into the archaeological record. One might posit a simple misclassification. Perhaps early explorers or geological surveys encountered fragments, dismissing them as peculiar natural formations, perhaps a unique form of desert varnish, or an exceptionally elongated fulgurite formed by lightning strikes. But even a rudimentary metallurgical or geological analysis would quickly dispel such notions. The uniformity of the material, its consistent width, and the apparent structural integrity over such vast distances defy any known natural process. The very concept of its construction demands an intelligence, a design, a manufacturing process. Then, there is the more disquieting possibility, a deliberate obscuration. Imagine the implications, the seismic shift in paradigms, should such a discovery be officially recognized and thoroughly investigated. It would unravel centuries of carefully constructed historical timelines, challenging deeply entrenched anthropological theories, and forcing a complete reevaluation of human technological progress. Such a radical reordering of accepted truths is often met not with enthusiasm, but with fierce resistance. It is far simpler, far more comfortable to categorize the anomalous as the impossible, to file away inconvenient truths into dusty archives where they gather no further inquiry. There exist tantalizing whispers, fragmented references within obscure academic journals from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and even fleeting mentions in the private correspondence of pioneering archaeologists and geographers. These include tantalizing references to anomalous linear features of vitrified material encountered during early expeditions, field notes detailing precise coordinates and curious observations of unnatural geological formations, reportedly went missing from university archives or were simply never cross-referenced with other seemingly unrelated expeditions. Reports filed away, often under the nebulous heading of Unexplained Geological Phenomena or Unsubstantiated Explorers' Tales, relegated to the intellectual periphery because they simply defied comfortable explanation within the prevailing scientific paradigms. The sheer scale was likely deemed too impossible to pursue with serious academic rigor, a subject not for esteemed scholars, but for fringe enthusiasts. To acknowledge its existence would be to admit a gaping, terrifying hole in our understanding of not just architecture, but civilization itself. Who would risk their academic reputation, their funding, their career on a 2,000-mile-long glass road built by whom? The silence, the dearth of sustained inquiry, speaks volumes about the collective reluctance to confront such an inconvenient truth. And in that vacuum, in the silence of sanctioned academic inquiry, theories began to fester, whispers born in the peripheral glow of nascent internet forums, and among a handful of intrepid, often ridiculed, independent researchers. These were not the peer-reviewed hypotheses of established institutions, but rather the desperate attempts to graft some semblance of understanding onto an object that stubbornly refused to fit any known paradigm. One prevalent notion, particularly in the earliest days of such discussions, posited the glass road as an ancient, hyperscale trade route. Proponents of this theory envisioned a vast, interconnected network, not dissimilar in concept to the Silk Road, but constructed on an unimaginable scale, its glazed surface perhaps facilitating faster, smoother transport, or even reducing friction for bespoke conveyances. They imagined an empire, lost to the annals of history, possessing the resources and the engineering prowess to lay down such an enduring thoroughfare across thousands of miles of unforgiving desert. The logical inference being that if such a structure existed, it must have served a monumental practical purpose, justifying the colossal expenditure of energy and materials. However, the sheer uniformity of its width, its unyielding straightness over vast distances, and the lack of any discernible entry or exit points, or indeed any integrated settlements or trading posts along its colossal length, cast significant doubt upon its utility as a mere transport artery. Where were the depots, the watering holes, the towns that would inevitably blossom along such a vital economic lifeline? The absence of these customary accoutrements of ancient trade routes makes this explanation, while superficially plausible in its simplicity, ultimately unsatisfying upon closer scrutiny. Another, perhaps more audacious theory suggested the glass road was in fact an ultra-advanced power conduit. This idea, born from observations of the vitrified material's unique electrical properties and its remarkable resistance to environmental degradation, envisioned an ancient civilization harnessing colossal amounts of energy, perhaps from subterranean geothermal sources or even atmospheric phenomena, and transmitting it across continents for purposes unknown. The sheer scale and conductive nature of the vitrified silica, proponents argued, seemed almost custom-designed for the low-loss transmission of energy over immense distances. One speculative subgroup even dared to suggest a link to the enigmatic desert kites structures found across the region, theorizing the glass road could have been used to power some ancient form of environmental modification or climate control, though the mechanisms for such a feat remain entirely in the realm of science fiction. The challenge with this proposition, beyond the obvious lack of any discernible power generation or consumption infrastructure along its path, lies in our current inability to comprehend the technological principles that would permit such colossal energy transmission over such a distance without catastrophic dissipation or environmental impact. We lack the comparative analogs, the foundational scientific understanding of such a process, to move this from mere speculation to even a theoretical possibility rooted in known physics. And then, naturally, there is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the idea that this monumentally inexplicable structure is, quite simply, an alien landing strip or navigational beacon. This theory, often dismissed as the last refuge of the intellectually bankrupt, gains a perverse measure of credibility precisely because all other terrestrial explanations falter so spectacularly. The precise linear alignment, the astonishing width, the almost incomprehensible scale, all of these attributes, it is argued, are consistent with the requirements for interstellar travel or navigation. Certain proponents point to the extraordinary smoothness and the vitrified nature of the surface as optimal for advanced craft, perhaps even for repelling specific atmospheric or magnetic interferences. The sheer lack of any discernible purpose within human historical context, its apparent disregard for terrestrial topography, lending credence to the notion that its creators operated on a fundamentally different scale, with different requirements and priorities. While it neatly sidesteps the issue of who built it by simply transplanting the architects beyond our planet, it offers no tangible evidence beyond the structural anomalies themselves. It replaces one mystery with an entirely new, and in many ways, an even more profound one. What would be the practical necessity for a 2,000-mile-long landing strip in such a remote location, unless it was a permanent installation of immense strategic importance to its builders? And where are the remnants of their visits, the craft, the infrastructure, beyond this monolithic anomaly? These theories, diverse and often conflicting as they are, share a common thread. They represent humanity's desperate, almost primal need to make sense of the incomprehensible. Each, in its own way, is an intellectual scaffold, however precarious, erected to bridge the chasm between what we observe and what we can explain. The limited evidence available, confined largely to the physical attributes of the structure itself, and the unsettling absence of any corroborating historical or archaeological records, renders all these explanations highly speculative. Yet, the very act of their formulation underscores the profound perplexity surrounding the glass road, an enigma so vast, so utterly alien to our historical understanding, that even the most outlandish explanations become, perversely, less outlandish than the notion of its existence without any explanation at all. The enigma of the glass road, then, transcends mere archaeological curiosity. It stands as a profound challenge to our collective consciousness, an artifact of impossible reality that demands a radical reassessment of human history, technological evolution, and, perhaps, even the very origins of civilization on this planet. We are confronted with an undeniable physical manifestation of something that, by all conventional metrics of historical understanding, simply should not exist. This kilometer-wide, 2,000-mile-long ribbon of fused silica, resilient against the relentless sands of the Sahara for an untold epoch, is not a legend or a theoretical construct. It is undeniably present, irrevocably altering the landscape and our understanding of time, scale, and capability. Its existence rips a gaping hole in the carefully constructed tapestry of official historical narratives, forcing us to confront the profound limitations of our current knowledge. What grand civilization possessed the engineering prowess, the logistical might, and the sheer audacity to conceive and execute such a monumental project? And why is there no trace of their presence in any annals, no mention in any ancient texts, no other comparable megastructure to hint at their identity? The silence from traditional archaeology on this matter is not merely conspicuous, it is deafening, suggesting either a deliberate suppression of uncomfortable facts or, more disturbingly, an institutional incapacity to even begin to grapple with data that so fundamentally contradicts established paradigms. This road, impervious to erosion and time, becomes a monument not only to its unknown builders, but also to the colossal gaps in our own comprehension of the past. The glass road under the Sahara beckons us to look beyond the comfortable confines of accepted history, to question the tidy timelines and the universally agreed-upon milestones of human achievement. It suggests that our understanding of antiquity is not merely incomplete, but potentially fundamentally flawed, missing entire chapters of advanced development, forgotten peoples and lost technologies. The implications extend far beyond academic circles, touching upon the very foundation of how we perceive our place in the universe and the trajectory of our evolution. To accept its reality is to open oneself to a universe of possibilities that were once relegated to the realm of myth or speculative fiction. It forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that advanced intelligence, perhaps even an unknown form of it, walked this earth long before our recorded history began, leaving behind an indelible, undeniable imprint that challenges every sacred cow of archaeological and historical consensus. Ultimately, the glass road is more than an anomaly. It is a profound, philosophical statement, etched into the very bedrock of our planet. It confronts us with the sobering truth that what we consider known history is but a fragile construct, perpetually vulnerable to revision, or indeed total upheaval, by the stubborn persistence of physical evidence. This monumental, inexplicable artifact demands an ongoing, rigorous, and open-minded quest for truth, unburdened by dogma or preconceived notions. The answers, if ever found, may not merely fill in gaps in our past, but fundamentally redefine our future. If you find yourself questioning what history books leave out, hit subscribe and ring the bell to join us for the next investigation.